Hello, and welcome to what's gonna be probably a very short video, but I believe it's a pretty important one to give. And this is something that I notice my students always struggle with, is how to create a landscape in Rhino from, a 2D contour line drawing or any kind of information that you get from, your local municipality or government documents. So as I was kind of working on a new project here, I just decided to start recording, my process and just show you, step by step of how I take the design, of the buildings and actually marry it into this three-dimensional landscape. Well, at this moment, it's not... Okay, we're back. I think the drilling is over. Where was I? 2D landscape, right? Making 3D landscape out of 2D landscape and then merging the buildings into it. So usually what you would expect to get from your kind of local government in terms of the landscape information is something like this in any kind of a DWG or CAD format. And it's a bunch of contour lines here, with some markups stating how high the contour lines are above the sea level, and also some picket lines. I don't know if that's how it's called in English, but at least in Lithuanian it's how it's called, right? So just single point coordinates also dictating how high stuff is. So we will begin with doing a very boring thing, that is just lifting everything to the correct height. By the way, the blue line here is just the river edge, right? So we don't really care about the blue line. So just lifting everything up to the correct height, right? So for instance, I guess we can start with the contours, right? So here it says 108 meters above sea level, right? So I just selected, click on the Z-axis and move it up 108, and my 3D model is here in the bottom side. You can see it's in millimeters, right? Right there in the bottom. So it's actually going to be 108,000, right? And I'm just move it up. So now it's going to be somewhere here, right? In the correct height. I'll continue doing it for, let's say, this one. So this one is 110, meaning that, wait, if that is 108, that's 108.5, 109, 109.5, and 110. So between each of these, there's like 50 centimeter height difference, right? So this one is gonna be 108.5, 108,500 millimeters, then 109,000, 109,500, and 110,000. Wait, there we go. So here you can see that we're slowly creating a, the appropriate slope in terms of, sorry, the markups. So I'll continue doing this for each one of these curves. For instance, this one is going to be 107,500, right? 500 millimeters lower. And this one is going to be 110,500. And then I will do the same thing for the single points, right? So I just select one, move it up 107,170 millimeters. 107,650 millimeters, and so on, right? So this is why I'm calling it the boring part, because I just need to lift everything to the correct height. I will stop the video here and we'll continue once I've done that. Okay, we're back. Wait, my microphone, there we go. So we're back. I haven't brought up or moved up all of the pickets here, but I have moved up all of the contour lines. And the reason for that is because the contour lines and the pickets, they kind of do the same thing, right? So I don't want to spend time working on stuff that I don't really need, that will not increase the resolution that much of my landscape. But said that, there are two parts or two places where I actually brought in the pickets. And it was this area right here that this was, just me testing it out and seeing if, the height of the pickets corresponds to the height of the contour lines. If they will get moved to a similar position, and it seems like they are being moved to a similar position, so that's great. Except for this one. Why is this one all weird? Ah, never mind, it's kind of in the same height. So that's nice. That means I can just use the contour lines and they are going to be accurate. That tells me that. And the second part was here. In this area, I moved a few pickets up, right? A few of these points up. That's because this is where the buildings are going to be. And I just want to have like a second layer of making sure, right, that the landscape that I'm going to generate is going to be correct in this particular area. Everything else is whatever. Okay, so we are kind of done with this. Then the next step is to just get rid of the text, right? The text will get in the way, right? So the text is set to be a block instance in my case. In your case, it might not be, but if it is a block instance, then you need to explode it, right? So I'm going to just type in cell block instance so that all of the blocks are selected, and I'm going to explode them. If I manage to write the word explode. There we go. So that's done. And now, technically, yeah, this is just a point and a text, right? So these got exploded. So now to fix it, I just type in cell text and type in delete. Cell text, delete. We're good. We have curves and points, and that's all we have. Now for this, how do you create a landscape? Well, you could either mesh it technically, but I don't really like that. I prefer to just use patch. Patch is never going to be perfectly... So you select all of the points and the curves and you type in patch. Patch is never going to be perfectly accurate, right? It's always going to be kind of close, but never perfectly close. Also, what the hell is going on there? We'll need to somehow push that one down, but that's fine. We will do that. So it's always going to be close, but never close enough. And you can control how accurate it is with the U and V spans here. So I'm just going to say, let's go for 25 by 25. There we go. Now you can see that this got fixed, and everything is kind of following, my curves quite well. And I can see that even the hill here, I mean, it doesn't reach this point, but we're not building at this point. What we care about is mostly this area right here, which is relatively flat. I like how this looks. So 25 by 25, I will keep it. Maybe, let's go for higher. Let's go for like 40. 40 by 40. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but now this is definitely good enough. And that's it. We have ourselves a landscape, right? We have ourselves a landscape. So now to actually bring in our buildings onto the landscape, or rather other way around, bringing our landscape onto the buildings. First of all, I'll delete all of the stuff that I didn't use here in my drawing, except for the site border. I will want that. I will also want the path here. Maybe we'll kind of do something with it. So I'm mostly getting rid of the points right here. The hell is that? I don't care. We'll delete that. Points, points, points. And getting rid of those. Okay, so this is cleaned up. So we're left with a landscape like this. And now I'm just going to kind of move it down, right? just moving it down to make sure that it's in the correct height. And just so that we don't, actually we should probably do it right now, just so that stuff doesn't get lost. I will just take my curves and my points right from here, and I'll just create a new layer and call it landscape inputs. Let's say landscape inputs. Change object layer, make it probably like red or something, and yeah, call it a day. So now they're in the landscape inputs layer, and actually we can select the objects and just group them so that it's easier to select them later down the line, right? Then the same thing for the curve and the trees and whatnot. So let's deal with the trees real quick. There are some trees marked out here. I don't think, like, we are going to be working on this in terms of 3D rendering, so I don't think we really need the trees to be there. I'll get rid of them. I'll add the trees by myself without needing to check the DWG file. Okay, but the contour line, sorry, the contour line, the site border, as well as the road or whatever, these curves should just be projected onto the landscape, and they should have their own little name. I don't know, landscape curves. Change object layer, and let's make them blue. There we go. And now we don't need these anymore. Okay. So now once we have all of that done, I can just select all of it and move up to the kind of close, what I would call a close enough position. Oh, I forgot to delete these two. You always forget a few curves here and there. But we need to move both the buildings as well as the landscape up to the correct position, right? So this is gonna be, you can either do it through math by just calculating how high stuff should be, or you can just wing it by eye. I'm gonna wing it. I think that's kind of good. Seems good. Let's take a gander. Yeah, that's still pretty high. Let me actually group that. And let's see if we can figure it out. So one way of how we can do this is if I just took my buildings and I just drew a perimeter line around them, right? Around the terrace of the buildings. There's one, and I'll just draw another one. This is just gonna be a rectangle right here. So if we have two curves, you know, that correspond to the perimeter of our buildings, and we just take those curves and we project those curves onto the landscape, right? So delete input yes, and we select the landscape and hit enter, right? Now we can actually see where the building will touch the landscape, you know, and we can actually see like a projected gap. So now I can kind of easily decide if I want, you know, the building to kind of narrow down onto the landscape on this point, or if it should be, you know, somewhere lower, maybe, come on, wireframe. Somewhere lower, maybe this point, maybe that point, you know, it's up to me. In this case, I think that point is fine for this particular building, so I'm gonna keep it, and I'll do the same thing for this one. Let's see, that point or that point. Let's go for this. Move enter, vertical enter from here. Come on, give me the snap. There we go. So we have it working now. This doesn't end, of course, with just us moving the landscape here, because now we have this kind of large lip, and we don't want to have, you know, for this building, we don't want to have a step that is so high in here as well as in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the landscape back up to the, you know, to the building. So we're going to kind of rebuild a portion of the landscape, and we can do that by, I guess we can just create a hole in here, right? Yeah, let's do it that way. So how do we create a hole? I guess we just do a polyline again. It's gonna be a little bit messy, and I'm going to hide the necessary curves just so that it's a little bit more clear for you. So to create a hole, we basically just draw, let's do it for this one first. Wireframe, please. From here to here, to here, like around the perimeter yet again, we draw a rectangle. And I guess we just offset the rectangle by, I don't know, like 2 meters, 3 meters, depends on how much of a gap you want to eat up. So I'm just going to do like a 2 meter gap. Let's do 3 meters just to be on the safe side. 3 meter gap, like that. Okay. So we have that done. And we basically have one curve here. This is the curve to which we want to attach the landscape, and this curve right here will be basically how far away we're going to be dealing with the landscape, how far away, what's our threshold, right? So for this curve, I will actually do fillet corners, and I'll give it a fillet radius of, let's say, 2 meters. Yeah, something like that. Or we can even go further, 3 meters. Yeah, something like that. And now we just take this curve, move it up, and just project it onto the landscape. Like that, perfect. So now the tricky part, and it's actually not that tricky. You just select the curve, you type in trim, you trim out a hole in the landscape, and then you take the two curves and you either loft them together, or a tool that I prefer much more is called sweep between two rails. And the way it works is, if I type in sweep 2, it's gonna ask me for first rail, that's going to be my inner curve, second rail, that's going to be my outer curve, and the sweep shapes, that's going to be this kind of line segment that I just drew. Like that. And it's going to take that line segment, enter, and it's going to move it or sweep it all along the edge. And you can see that it messes up, but that's fine. We will fix it, because with sweep, you have the possibility to add slash. So if I type in add slash, I can, for instance, add a slash from here to here, and then from here to here, and now it breaks. Undo, back. Why does it break? Can we do it here? Okay, that's kind of good enough. And then from here to here, it's a little bit on the breaky side. I wonder what's up with that. We can always fix those corners separately, I guess. Maybe we will. Because I don't like how this looks. But we'll see. I will test it with Arctic View. If it doesn't work, I'll show you another way of how to do it. It okay? Okay, let's go for Arctic view and just investigate. So there are these kind of not that nice seams there that I don't like. So we're not using this. Yep. You can't have a tutorial with me without actually redoing something. Okay. Let's try exploding and seeing how this is gonna work. What if we explode both of the perimeter curves and we loft between those, right? So this is easy. This gets lofted. This gets lofted. Come on. This gets lofted. And the last one. And this gets lofted. That's the easy part. Then I want this to be filled in, and I think we can use edge surface tool to just fill in the 3 edges here. And let's just take a quick look at it with Arctic view. Yeah, that seems good, right? If I delete the curve from here, now that's clean. Okay, so we are going to be using loft and edge surface tool. Okay, that, then again, that, and again, that. Okay, so once you're done with this, you can just join everything together with this. You know, this is back to a single poly surface. Get rid of the curves, and now you have a building that is joined into the landscape. And if I take a look at it through the Arctic view, you know, there is a little bit of a hill here, but we are going to hide it with some rocks and whatnot. But this is much better than just having, you know, a 1.5 meter step. We kind of need to do the same thing here. And this one is going to be a little bit more tricky because it has this area right here. And I'm just thinking how to solve this area. So if it was something a little bit more complicated, even more complicated, then I would be doing the, you know, the lofting and so on. I would be building up the gap just like we did before. I would be doing that in separate patches. But in this case, I think we can just get away with just creating a surface here, you know, flat surface. And now we can just do a rectangle here, give it like an offset of, I don't know, like, let's try 5 meters. Let's try a bigger gap here. Fillet corners, again 5 meters. Project this bad boy on this bad boy. We have that. Trim. Perfect. Then select this one. Select this one. Actually, let me isolate so that you can see better, right? Isolate these two. Explode these two. And then loft between these. Loft between these, loft and loft, right? That's the easy part. And then edge surface here, 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 enter. Edge surface here, here, here. Nope, missed one. Here, here, and here. Here, here, and here. And last one right here. Okay, join them up. Cell curves, delete, show. Join these back in, and now we have ourselves the landscape, right? And if I do an emap on this, this should be kind of, yeah, it's not great, but definitely not the worst, right? You can definitely see the seams between them, but I've seen much worse. And we should probably use the fluorescent tube analysis. Ugh. Yeah, I should not show you this. This is not the cleanest way to do it. But either way, we have ourselves a 3D landscape that is pretty precise according to, you know, the contour lines and the pickets. And also we have ourselves, you know, the two buildings that are sitting in the landscape. Other than that, you know, all the rest is going to be just moving stuff, not stuff, adding trees and cutting out the, let's say, the road from here. And the way you cut out road is literally the same way as I did here with these curves. You know, you just use, instead of trim, you use split, and you'll get yourselves a road. So that's easy. What else is there? Nothing. This, as I said, is a shorter one, and I hope you will find it useful. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.